Climate change and sustainability is a hot topic in the 21st century. Investigating on the big history could help us understand a lot more on this issue. But what is big history? It is actually a tool to let us examine our past, explain our present, and imagine our future. The Big History Project is a joint effort among teachers, scholars, and scientists. It takes a multidisciplinary approach to check on the climate issues, as it is supposed to be. But if we start with the whole timeline of big history, it will be far too clumsy, so we will trim it down for you for ease of understanding. Let's start from 2.4 billion years ago. Start of photosynthesis cell. 2.4 billion years ago, some bacteria started moving up to the surface of the ocean and started making use of our largest energy source, the solar energy. This process is the famous photosynthesis. These photosynthetic organisms would consume light energy, water, and carbon dioxide to produce their food, sugar, and oxygen. This kind of organisms changed the gas concentration on the Earth from carbon dioxide rich to oxygen rich, killing lots of anaerobic organisms. With sufficient oxygen accumulated in the atmosphere, around 300 million years ago, marine animals started to move to live on land, and that's when we started to have reptiles, mammals, and amphibians. But there did exist some failed transitions, where species actually went back to the sea from land, mainly due to the climate instability. From these two events, we can see the manifestation of two very important big history concepts: natural selection and extinction, change and adaptation. 2.4 billion years ago, anaerobic organisms went extinct, when photosynthetic organisms emerged. With a rapid change in oxygen concentration, the anaerobic organisms do not have the attributes to mitigate the change, so most of them were wiped out from the planet. With harsh environmental changes, the result could be quite disastrous. In the end Permian extinction 250 million years ago, 95% of the species went extinct due to acid rain and volcanic eruption. Well, that's really some power of nature. Changes are inevitable, just like the accumulation of oxygen we've mentioned just now. Looking into the past history, in order to survive, many organisms have to cope with the changes and adapt to their extreme environment through changing their adaptive phenotypes. For instance, penguins once had wings like other birds, but to reserve energy and adapt to the extremely cold environment, wings for taking off had become a burden. So instead, penguins became great swimmers and divers. As the most collaborative and most adaptable species that have ever existed, we human beings have to start thinking about our relationship with the nature and how to succeed in group decision making so as to adapt to the new environment and save ourselves from the earth in time. Human civilization progressed at an astonishing pace. The origin of agriculture starts at around 10,000 years ago. People started to create networks of exchanges among the communities and individuals. When human communities enlarged and become denser, cities and states were established. You must have heard of China's famous Silk Road, an ancient route that stretched for 10,000 kilometers way through the West Asian countries to the Mediterranean Sea and trading mainly silk and imperial envoy. That was one of the successful commercialization examples at that time. Well, information age started only in recent years, where digital innovations rose and started to replace work that was used to be done by manpower. But how can human beings be able to advance so fast compared to the other animals? The key is collective learning. It allows us to use symbolic languages to retain and pass information from one individual to another across generations without having to recreate the situation. This also makes the way human beings communicate at a much more complex manner. In general, our human culture is a product of not only individual geniuses, but the ideas and experience of billions of people that have lived previously. It is just like what Isaac Newton said: "If I have seen further than others, it is by standing upon the shoulders of giants." So all in all, collective learning is essentially the power to accumulate knowledge from generation to generation. It's like a huge snowball that has run for thousands of years. Even with a massive challenge up front, the climate change, we have nothing to fear, because we are literally the best species ever. Trust yourself, trust the world. We are able.